Hello, everyone. Welcome to Varsity Aces Live. I'm sports writer Greg Matora for NorthJersey.com and The Record. Tonight's topic, New Jersey spring sports season. We're going to have one. That's a big deal considering last year the spring season was wiped out by COVID-19. We have several high-quality guests on this evening. Let's start off with my co-host in crime, Paul Schwartz.
Hello, Greg.
Paul, how are you?
I'm good. Excited for the season.
So am I. I mean, after last year, how can you not be?
Right.
And then let's introduce our first guests from Northern Valley at Demarest. We have veteran coach Marc Houser. How are you, Marc?
How are you doing?
Hello there.
And then senior pitcher infielder for the Norsemen, Maxwell Solomon.
Hey, Greg. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Doing well.
Well, let's get right to it. We had pitchers and catchers last Friday, March 26th. Maxwell, we're going to start with you. I usually lead off with the coach, but I'm going to throw the first pitch at a player. Your thoughts on being able to get out on the field with the other pitchers and catchers after not being able to play baseball last year?
I mean, it was great getting out there, just pitchers and catchers. It was something new that we haven't ever done before. And it was good to see everyone out there just getting loose and just like getting loose ready for the season.
Marc, same question to you from a coaching perspective. What did it mean to you to be able to get out on the field after having last year wiped out?
It's actually emotional. I don't think I've missed the spring season since I'm probably 5 years old, so it's 39 years now. With all the kids, it actually, it hit you for real.
And Marc, how many kids did you have at pitchers and catchers?
We had different kids in terms of numbers every day with COVID and everything. We were maxed out about 16 kids for practice. Each day they were there.
Okay. Maxwell, how was the practice from your view, from the player's perspective?
It was pretty light, keeping our arms loose, and it was good when we got out there. Got to throw with the wind, got to throw with cleats on, because we usually were inside for this part of the season. So it was all around a good experience.
Now, Marc talked about how it was a little bit emotional for him. How did you feel emotionally coming out onto the field for the first time?
I was really excited and nervous at first. I didn't know what to expect because we never had a pitchers and catchers before. But once we got out there, it felt like it was normal.
And how was your first pitch? Was it a strike? Did you throw it over the catcher's head? Did you bounce it?
I think my first pitch was a ball outside to righty.
Marc, what have been some of the benefits to starting the season a little bit later? Usually April 1st would be the start of the season. Now it's going to be the start of first full practices.
Obviously, the weather. We've been lucky for the past 4 or 5 years to travel south, but the weather was excellent, and that's conducive to what we want to do. The field is in a lot better shape at the beginning. Of course, we're led by one of the best around in Greg Butler, and we have 5 mounds that we can work off of bullpens that are ready to go, cleaned up and camped, etc. So that's another thing is the field conditions.
Paul, over to you.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Coach, could you see asking the NJSA to do that thing with pitchers and catchers next year, even if we have a normal season with a normal start? Did you find that was of value to do that beyond first day everybody shows up?
Yeah, as long as it's not the same as it was this year with crossover sports, where kids have to make difficult decisions. But in terms of the timing and the weather, I think it's excellent. And the pitchers and catchers, I said to my coaches, regardless of what the NJSA does, we're going to follow this model the same way, and then we would add fielders during the duration of the practice moving forward. It was such an excellent experience for us that we're going to do this probably throughout the remainder of my career.
Do you have a number of crossover kids that are for the moment?
I don't. We do have 1 or 2. They're younger, but I know that would have impacted me, and it could. I've heard some stories across the state of other kids that could impact. So if the wrestler can't participate in baseball, or have to make that decision. That would be really difficult. I just don't want the kids to have to be put in that situation.
Maxwell, Paul's question is a good one from a player's perspective. I know you're going to be graduating and playing in college. How did you feel after the pitchers and catchers? Were you a little bit sore? What do you think were the benefits to having it?
Well, we were keeping it light during pitchers and catchers. It was just good to get us started and get us going light out, so we don't blow our arms out on the first day of practice, trying to show out our velocity, show out all our off-speed stuff. It was a good way to ease into it.
And Marc, you said when the full practice starts, you're going to treat the first couple of days almost like a tryout. How do you prevent kids from doing what Maxwell just said, trying to impress you by throwing their arms out? What are you going to do to make sure that the young kid who you haven't seen or hasn't been seen in the last couple of years doesn't try too hard the first day and set themselves back?
Yeah, we always coach them up, and we let them know, that it's extremely important to secure your body. And if we do a drill where you're throwing home, I'm going to, from the outfield, and we're throwing a 4. I don't want them throwing all the way to 4. I just want to see good footwork, good arm action, and you can tell a lot from that. And kids have good footwork and good arm action, that they're going to get it there anyway. You can read that in a kid. So we definitely coach them up throughout the whole process. We'll talk about it in our warm-ups and our pre-practice meetings. And then as we get into it, if we have to pull someone aside and make some corrections, we can also do that.
Again, the first full day of practice is April 1st. That's tomorrow for those of you scoring at home. Marc, what kind of expectations, if any, do you have? How many kids do you anticipate showing up?
We'll have anywhere from about 32 to 37 kids. Tonight I'll go home and I'll finalize all that so I can get my hidden group put together, et cetera. And then, within the format of the practice, like you said, we're going to do it more of like a tryout. We want to get a lot of repetitions early, evaluate, and then get back into our teaching aspect of it.
How much of it?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Greg.
Maxwell, same question over to you. What kind of expectations, if any, do you have for the April 1st full day practice?
I'm expecting everyone to come in with an open mind, ready to learn. I'm expecting a lot of mistakes because we only have 2 returning varsity letter winners. So hopefully we could make these mistakes now and avoid them in games.
And with that in mind, both of you, let me start with you, Maxwell. They're the guys that are going to be on the field with you. You're going to go to war with these guys for the next couple of months. With that in mind, as one of the returning guys and as the leader of the team, what's going to be your added responsibility this year, especially early in the season?
I'm just going to focus on making sure everyone knows what they're doing, everyone's comfortable, and everyone's asking questions. We stress asking questions, and if you don't know something, and if you mess up, it's all right. You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
And for you, Coach, does that mean more chalk talk? Does that mean more sit down and discussions before you take the field or after your daily practice?
We have been utilizing, even prior to COVID, which helped us, is our Google Classroom. So we have a Google Classroom, so we can relay so much information even throughout, preseason. That helps us a lot, and we're going to use that to our advantage throughout the season.
Marc, what's the first thing you're going to work on in practice in the first full practice?
Base running every year.
And why is that?
Because people underestimate it. It's like special teams in football. We want to make base running as important as offense and defense and getting home runs. Every season we begin with base running. I got at a clinic down in Cherry Hill one year. Obviously, we do our dynamic warm-up, and the first thing we're doing, it's already in the practice plan, is running through first base. We're going to do some 60 times this year just to do. And we're going to talk a little bit about our base running philosophies and what we're trying to do.
Now, I know that as we pointed out, pitchers and catchers was unique last week. What did you find to be unique about that opportunity?
We were prepared for it. Coach Talty, my pitching coach, he ran the whole practice. He's my pitching coach. So I told the kids, I set the foundation. I have a lot of trust in him, so he kind of ran the practice. And, the uniqueness was just seeing the kids able to, with the lower numbers, they kind of eased into it the correct way. As Maxwell was alluding to, we don't want to press them to a point where they have to get to that point where they need to press us on the mound. Or as Paul said earlier, how are we not going to get them to throw too hard and blow their arms out? And that's us as coaches giving them that information. The uniqueness was, the pace that they took, and they took an excellent pace. We're really excited to get into full team practice.
And again, follow-up question, Marc, and that is, how do you see the first several days of practice going?
We're going to get into 2 days of where I can do some, and the coaches obviously, where I can kind of walk around and see every kid and do some evaluations. And then we're going to pull it back into our first Friday in March practice, which I have on file, all of them, and we'll start to work into more in-depth base running, repetitions through multiple infield and outfield, one teaching point a day. Say it's bunt defense, not the entire package, but building it so the second time we rebuild on it, followed up with a real good hitting circuit and ending with some conditioning.
Maxwell, let me ask you this question. As a player, what are you most looking forward to this season, especially in the early part of the season?
I'm most looking forward to getting into the meat of the season where we're having back-to-back games a week, and we're just getting after it. Everyone's going 100%. Even the guys in the bench are into it. That's what I love the most.
And is there going to be a county tournament this year? I know there's going to be so there is going to be a county tournament. Is Demarest going to be the main cog as it usually is?
Yeah. As far as I know right now, they have other fields that are available in case of rain and time like that. We went over it all at the meeting, but Demarest, yeah.
And Maxwell, let me follow up. I asked this before without getting into specific names. Are you aware of the Demarest tradition, and what do you want to do as the leader of the team to try and maintain that tradition of Demarest baseball?
Well, as a leader, I just want everyone to know that I'm there for them. All the coaches are there for them, and we're here. We're all here for each other. We're all here to win, all have the same goal, and we just have to focus on the little things, and the big things become easy.
Maxwell, I also want to ask again, you have a pretty young team, only a couple of seniors. What kind of expectations then can you have when we're having a shortened preseason and you only have a couple of seniors on the roster?
For the shortened preseason, I'm expecting a lot of mistakes out of players, but all the mistakes are right. As long as we make the mistakes in practice and during scrimmages, for the games, we should all be good. And all the young players have to get their nerves out during the scrimmages and early practices.
And Coach, let me ask you, Marc, do you think that just not necessarily only for Demarest, but in North Jersey baseball and baseball in particular this year, can you see teams being more aggressive in the base running game than maybe they usually would be because it's been so long and because the base running game can put so much pressure on the game?
There's no doubt, and I referenced that. I remember I learned in college they used to call us the snowbirds. They would bunt on us like 8 times a game because they know we haven't picked it up yet on the field. So in terms of the small ball game and the aggressiveness on the bases, I think it definitely, I think, is going to increase.
And Marc, what kind of impact will a shortened number of preseason days have on what you try to teach?
We're going to keep. Well, it's not just the short season. It's kind of knowing your customers and knowing that we only have 2 returning letter winners. So we're going to keep it very basic, and we will evolve through the season. But in terms of our first and third and bunt defenses, we're going to stay very basic in the beginning, and then. And I do this all the time. If it's a veteran team, we can move a little bit. It's about the pace. But you got to know your customers. Since it's such a new group, we're going to keep it pretty basic to start off.
And again, the NJSIA has talked about how this school year is more about, about participation than it is about competition. How do you view this spring season, this baseball season for the Norsemen?
Myself?
Correct.
I think once people cross white lines, they get on a court, they get on a field, whatever it is, they're gonna compete. I think that's just the nature of athletics. I know my kids are going to come out and cross that line, and they're going to compete. I know they want participation, and that's excellent. Yes, that is part of it, and we'll work with that. But I know with the Norsemen, we will compete.
Maxwell, same question over you. Your senior year of high school, some people get senioritis. Some people fight down to the last out or the last inch of their distance run, whatever it is. How do you view your senior season? How do you view Demarest's ability to win games, to compete for whether it's a division title or win games in the county or state tournament?
We're all here to win. We're all winners. And we just come, we try our best. And obviously, we want to have fun, but obviously, one of our main focuses is also to win games. So I want to go out with a bang, and so does my fellow seniors.
Paul, final questions?
Just if you can get an entire season in, how much will that be to putting the program on an even keel and getting it back to complete normalcy next year with a full turnout and a full preseason and a regular, recruitment and everything else, Coach?
I think it's extremely important, especially since we're a young team. I think everyone needs to see some normalcy, mental aspect of these students right now. Being a teacher and a father of 3 daughters and a coach, you can see the impact that this has. So one of my major goals, obviously, is to compete, make sure that we keep our players grounded, know that they're always in Norseman at any time they can always come back, and sending our seniors off the right way and ensuring that our underclassmen know that we're going to be positioned. And you talked about it earlier as a traditional program, and what Greg Butler and everyone before me has done, and we're going to build upon that. We always have.
And Maxwell, for you, what constitutes a successful season this year?
Obviously, winning constitutes a successful season. Also having fun and just playing our hearts out, and always competing, always staying in games, always trying our hardest, and just getting out there and doing our thing.
Okay, well, from a baseball perspective, this part of the show is completed. I'd like to thank our guests from Northern Valley at Demarest, Coach Marc Houser, and senior pitcher or third baseman Maxwell Solomon. Gentlemen, thank you so very much for being our guests. We really appreciate it. And now I'm going to step off the mound and hand the ball over to Paul Schwartz, who's the king of New Jersey track. There's no one better at it, and he's going to go the final 3 innings with a track standout. Lakeland distance runner Angelina is going to step right in there and hand the ball over to you there.
Thanks, guys, and good luck to you guys.
Thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it.
Okay, our next guest is Lakeland Junior Angelina Perez. Hello, Angelina.
Hi.
Hi. So, Angelina, unlike the other guys, you have had the ability to compete. You're a distance runner. You had almost a full cross-country season. You were you won a number of events, including a national virtual championship and the Nike Virtual Nationals. You got to run in the Homedale Invitational, where you set a North Jersey record at the Homedale course and finished second to an All-American. And you've reached your own level. And you weren't able to defend your indoor 2-mile championship because we didn't have state championships. But you're sort of unique with this season starting because you've never run your specialty in an outdoor track meet, correct?
Yes, that is correct. I've never run the 2-mile outside, obviously last year because everything got shut down because of COVID. And I've never really considered having a full outdoor track season. I ran track when I was a freshman and I ran the 800, but it was basically before I started any of my running career. So I really don't count that season. So just in general, being able to have an outdoor season this year, I'm just really excited.
And what about your teammates? We'll get to it in a second because you actually you go into the season in a unique position of being a Passaic County record holder before you've run an official spring track race because you ran down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina last weekend and finished third in the USA Meet of Champions in the 2-mile, setting a Passaic County record. How are you and your teammates looking forward to this spring track season?
Overall, we're just so excited to be able to have an outdoor season for track, especially after coming off of this kind of weird winter season that we had. Obviously, the girls who I've been running with since cross country, having basically a relatively normal cross country season, getting a lot of races in. It was really great. And then kind of the winter season was obviously not what we wanted it to be. And with all the snow we had, a lot of practices got canceled and we really didn't get chances to go on the track like at all. So I feel like just in general, with the weather starting to get warmer and getting more track workouts in and just kind of being able to run outside all together again, we're just really excited.
And you, as I said, you would run in this meet in South Carolina, so that has led to you not being able to be with your team tomorrow officially because you're in the 10-day quarantine from returning from South Carolina. What have you spoken to your teammates about and coach about what his plan is for tomorrow and what he's going to do on the first day of practice and how the preseason is going to go?
Yeah, so I didn't talk like specifically about exactly what he's going to have us do. I know in general our specifically like the distance runners, even though we didn't have like the most normal season, he did have them take a couple days off kind of after we had one like dual meet, and it was last week before I left. And then I had taken a couple days off too. In general, I feel like our main focus is really going to be working on a lot of speed work because we really didn't get a lot of that in during the winter because the tracks were covered in snow. So definitely focusing on speed. And I am hoping that we don't have a lot of distance runners right now because we obviously do lose more people in the spring doing other sports. But I know that they are looking at hopefully getting more people to run more distance events. But yeah, I feel like our biggest focus is definitely getting a lot of speed work in, especially for me. That's going to be probably my main focus for the spring since we didn't get much of it in during the winter.
And even though it's not a complete, it's a complete season, but it's 7 weeks instead of 9. And for the first time since, I guess, the last indoor season, we're actually going to have state sectionals, state groups, and state meet of champions. So how are you going to prepare so that you're ready to go in June when the big meets are ready to go?
Again, I think I am going to be focusing a lot more on speed, especially for a lot of the meets in the beginning that really are just dual meets, kind of doing more 800s. And I'll still probably do like the mile, but maybe not doing the mile and the 2 mile in every race. I haven't actually raced an 800 since my freshman year. So I think overall it will probably be like fun to see how much better I've gotten at that, but also it'll be good practice to get more speed in. So yeah.
And what did the race last Saturday, the 2-mile race where you finished third in a very high quality field, what did that do for you to prepare you for what's going to come this season and moving forward?
Yeah, that race I feel like just in general was a really good experience for me. Going into it, I didn't really have like specific goals for myself. Obviously, in terms of placing, I really had no idea how I was going to do. I was trying to focus on times, but like I said, I hadn't really gotten a lot of speed work. And I know obviously I'm not at where like my peak of where I want to be when the spring season, like the end of the spring season during sectionals and at the meet of champs, I know I have a lot more to work on. So I was kind of just going into that race, seeing what I kind of had in me. And in general, it was a good experience to just be able to run against girls with that kind of speed and at that good of a level and having such good competition to race against. And I feel like it definitely helped push me both physically and mentally to run as fast as I could and also get kind of like that speed in. And I feel like just in general, it was like the first time in a while that I had a race and I like finished and I felt like, oh, like I really got everything out and I really like pushed and I did find a little bit of speed like in me. So I definitely kind of helped build up my confidence a little bit, just knowing that like I hadn't like raced really since like November. So having such a long break was already so hard. So definitely having that good race just put me in a better overall state going into the spring season.
And as you said, you had somewhat of a normal cross-country season, which included your team having a very good season within the framework of what they could have. You won a sectional title for the first time. Your team won a sectional title. You did get invited to participate with the pseudo state meet of champions at Homedale. What's it going to be like being part of a team again in leagues, in counties, in sectionals? What's the anticipation of that now?
Yeah, I feel like coming off of such a good cross country season, specifically our distance runners, are really strong for the girls. And even though there isn't that many of us, I am confident that we're going to do well. The distance and sprinters all together, we have a really strong team. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what we can do. It was really exciting having such a good cross-country season as a whole, doing so well as a team. Our school obviously has never done that before. So being a part of something and winning a state sectionals for the first time, it was really exciting.
And I'm going to bring Greg back in. So after I ask you one more question, he can close the show out. But you also had an opportunity because of this to sort of start to think about the next level, which is more than a year away, but everyone's always said that the junior year is so important. Have you been able to do the kind of preliminary research you've been able to do so that when senior year or the beginning of senior year comes along, you'll be able to make your decisions where you hopefully COVID will allow you to go back to a more normal recruitment situation? What have you done towards the recruitment level to get yourself ready for next year?
Yeah, I've really been lucky enough to have schools contact me after a lot of it was after cross country and then after this race too. I have been like following up with schools and kind of trying to focus on maybe where I think I want to end up being, if I want to be in more warmer weather and academic wise, what schools I'm looking at. And I feel like just in general, it has been a little bit difficult doing like virtual tours and not being able to get on campus, but definitely just staying in contact with schools and keeping the communication between them, and then also them letting me know when the dead period is over, that they can start coming to meets and stuff, because right now they did say that it could possibly happen at the end of this spring season, that maybe they could make it to the meet of the champs to see us run. So yeah, just kind of staying in contact with them and hoping over the summer to be able to visit some schools in person.
Well, Angelina, thanks for joining us. And I'm looking forward to seeing you run in person for the first time since November, and looking forward to a great spring.
Yes. Thank you.
And may I add, Angelina, great job standing up to Paul Schwartz's heavy cross-examination there. No one does it better. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us on Varsity Aces Live. I'd like to thank our guests again, Angelina. I love saying that. Angelina Perez of Lakeland, distance standout runner. And then our previous guest from baseball, Demarest coach Marc Houser, and senior Maxwell Solomon. And of course, my co-host, Paul Schwartz. I love having him on the mound with me here. Paul, thanks so very much.
Thank you.
New Jersey, stay strong, stay safe, go out there and have a terrific preseason and a terrific spring season. We look forward to covering you. Thank you so much. For NorthJersey.com and The Record, I'm Greg Matora.